good day, good afternoon, good night. How you doing? This is MCM and you're listening to You're Probably Right. Today we are going to have a serious conversation. Well, maybe not a serious conversation, but there's going to be a serious talk happening here. Now, of course, I'm only doing the talking, but just stay tuned. Hey y'all, how you doing? This is MCM, and you are listening to You're Probably Right podcast. Remember, this podcast is for entertainment purposes only. At the same time, I hope I can help someone in some way, shape, or form, either maybe doing something that I did or maybe not doing what I did. You never know how it's going to help, but I hope it does. All right. This episode is called First Christmas Without Them, Navigating Grief and Finding Hope. Welcome to episode 172 of You're Probably Right podcast. This is one of, I guess you can call it a personal one. Very personal, I guess. This will be my first Christmas without any of my parents. My last surviving parent passed away this year, my mother. And I've already lost two of my three siblings. My father passed away years ago, a couple years before my brother. And now here I am facing a holiday that's supposed to be joyful. And I would say pretty much the favorite time of year for me and especially for my sister who's already gone. For those of you who have listened to my podcast before, you know that my sister passed away 2 years before my mother just passed this year. And they actually died 2 years and a day apart. My sister was the caregiver for my mother and my sister who was still alive. And it hasn't been easy. So the reason why I'm doing this podcast is to hopefully, obviously I just bang out some stuff within my own head, but also maybe I can give some comfort to someone who is maybe going through the same thing or has gone through the same thing and still hasn't healed, or maybe about to go through the same thing. As a matter of fact, today, it's funny. At my job, my day job, the one that actually pays me, I met a gentleman. He was there he had to do something at my location, and he was talking to me, and he said, it's been a rough time for him and his family because his mother just passed away. And I guess something happened and they resuscitated her, and she didn't fare well. So she ended up having just an existence, and she passed away. I think it was only maybe a couple days ago. And it was funny. It was really weird because when we started speaking about it, he actually started tearing up. And I felt so bad for him, but it's like I can't say I knew exactly because I don't know the relationship between him and his mother. But I was telling him, it's kind of funny because, this obviously not funny, but the same thing happened to me this year. The difference is that I personally had to try until the ambulance got there to resuscitate my mother. And of course, to no avail. But I could just see the pain in his eyes, and I realized that he felt, even though we only talked for a very, very short time, I could see that he found some comfort knowing that we both have young kids who are missing their grandmother, and I can't really guess it or gauge it, but it seemed like we weren't probably too far off in age. We have pretty much the grays in the same facial grays in the same place on our faces. And he was of a different culture, but, you could feel there was some sort of a camaraderie there, kind of like, you know what I'm saying, kind of thing. And I could see he just felt so comforted. And we talked about, I can't really get into the exact, it's kind of funny, sometimes I come up with these stories that I want to talk about, and then I realize I really can't talk about somebody else's life on my podcast. It's not right. So it might help a little bit more. Maybe I should have planned this part out, but the point is that it was nice to know that somebody else gets me where I was coming from at this particular time, and that I was able to be that for someone else. So as I said before, this time is generally, a joyful time. Me and my well, I call her my little sister, but she was older than me by a couple of years. We used to still in our ripe I would say old age, but we're not really old, but oldish age, still look at the little drummer boy, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. We would still look at, I wouldn't really that much, but I would still be fine to watch them. I can't explain it, but you never, I guess depending on who you are, some things from your childhood, you still, even though they don't excite you as much, you know what happened because you've seen it many times before, but you still like to revisit some of those old things that you used to enjoy when you were a kid. So, instead of feels full of, I don't know, everything going on and everybody close together, it just feels like everything, is probably going to be, full of empty seats almost. Can't really explain it. I know I'm not alone in this feeling. Many of you are going through similar experiences where joy and grief seem to sit together at the same table. In this episode, I want to talk about how to get through it, hopefully. How to honor those we've lost, and how to make it through this season with some semblance of hope. So hopefully I don't turn this into some sort of a crying session, and my voice might sound different than the last episode. I've noticed that just by listening to myself on these headphones, that sometimes I'm talking and I sound totally different. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. I'm a real person. You're a real person. Feelings are real. Tears are real. And your family, although many may not be there, or maybe just a few, or maybe just a single individual, are not here, or soon to be not here. It's okay to sit in your feelings. Try not to mope, I would say. Try not to stop living, because you're going to be living. You're here, regardless. Whether you sit there and lose 50 pounds or gain 50 pounds, you're still here. And you're going to have to deal with you after this part of your life. Because it is a part of life. Although you might say, well, it's really the end of a life. But no, it's a part of your life, obviously. So the first question: how do I prepare emotionally for my first holiday season without my loved one? Now, because I'm actually in this, to answer that question, I would say you'd have to acknowledge the pain. It's okay to feel sad, angry, or even numb. Acknowledging your emotions instead of trying to push them away is the first step, I would say, in coping. Where have I gotten to? And this is how I would say 5 months out. Um, you see, the last year of my mother's life wasn't easy, but it was easier because we had help finally. um, my sister finally broke down and decided to allow me to get some nurses in to help because my mom was home bedridden. And the last year before that, Christmas before that, we I made a little Christmas dinner. Mom wasn't really eating that much, and she seemed like she took a turn for the worst. And I didn't even know she was going to get through the year before last, but she did. But on Boxing Day, I had to rush her to the hospital, and me and her spent the following 2 to 3 days in the hospital. I had to field many questions from a few family members who were wondering, what was up with her, because my sister decided to preemptively call, thinking that she had taken a turn for the worse and she wasn't going to be around. But she gave us, she stuck around for another year. And as I said before, I had help this past year. But so I was coping the whole time. I've been coping for a while. Seeing my father in the same situation years ago, I'd kind of seen this before in a sense, although it was a different person. And relationships are different, although I love both my parents, and my parents were married all of my life while my father was alive. And I can't say that I've really, really come to grips. I know that she is, or she was a senior. She was in her 80s. So obviously she had way more life past than she had ahead of her anyways for a while, I would say. But it's still different. I'm a person, it's in November, but I've already listened to a lot of Christmas music. And it's kind of weird. You embrace that music, but there's still something like music tends to bring you back to places. It's kind of like, and forgive me if you don't know any of these songs. It's like some people will know where they were the first time they heard this song, "You Are My Sunshine," or some will know the feeling at least when they hear that song, or some will know the feeling of the song "The Old Rugged Cross," "Amazing Grace." Music gives you feelings. It's why people sing, and that's the reason why people buy music and listen to concerts. And some churches will say they're doing praise and worships, and all it is music, and it's feeling music. It's the same thing with the Christian music. I mean, the Christmas music. Sorry. Because I don't look at praise and worship something that should be a tearjerker, although many people will. The way that some people sing their songs, it is for that purpose, to get emotions and for people to emote. But I believe that true songs that honor God are songs that stick very, very closely to the Word of God and are biblical. And they're not just repetitious. They're not set with music to just pull the tears right out of you. It's a proper acknowledgement of who God is. But the point I'm making, talking about music, is, as I said, I've been listening to Christian music, Christmas music, and you feel the music. You get that same feeling that you used to get hearing certain songs. Hearing I think it's Bing Crosby whistling in some of his music, but yet there's also this sense of emptiness, and I can't really explain it. And although my mom was there for every Christmas up until now, I've kind of gotten a little used to the person who is the real Christmassy person. I don't know if every family has one. I'm assuming many families do have. They either have that person that connects them to something or everyone else, or you have that person that connects you to a memory or a holiday. And because me and my sister were so close in age, we did a lot of the same stuff at the same time. It felt like we were experiencing it for the first time, although she did for 2 years before I existed. But before, I guess, once she knew herself, because at 2, what do you know, right? But by the time she knew herself, I was always there. And for certain, because she's older than me, whatever I knew about Christmas, she was always there as well. So I think, yes, you have to acknowledge your emotions instead of trying to push them away. Plan ahead, I guess. Decide what traditions you want to keep. Maybe you make a turkey, maybe you don't. Maybe you're a ham person, I don't know. Potato salad, like whatever it is. Maybe you're not gonna obviously cook for many people because maybe there's not many people coming. Maybe you want it to be a little quieter. You can change some of your traditions, or you can skip it if you want. Give yourself the permission to alter your traditions. It can ease some of the pressure. Second question. Should I avoid holiday gatherings if I'm grieving? It depends on you. If the thought of attending feels overwhelming, it's okay to skip. But sometimes being around people can provide comfort. But don't feel guilty if you don't feel like being there. I think you should still be conscious of others because maybe you have kids like I do. So there might be certain things that you just have to, grin and bear, just like maybe your parents would have before. I mean, they had parents too. I still remember when my mother's parents died and how she was. So yeah, it really depends on you. Me, being the oddball that I am, I kind of shut down a lot of this stuff a long time ago. There was one year that I had a relationship and it broke up, and my kids were going to their other parents' side of the family. So I was pretty much going to be alone, but not alone. I still had some of my family with me. But it was like, do I stay wrapped up in a sheet here, or do I go and do something? And what I did, I can be honest with you, I went and I saw, and I guess this would tell you the year it was, I went to see, I think, one of the Lord of the Rings newer movies, because I think it came out that year. I'm pretty sure they were Christmas movies, I think. And then the other one was Django Unchained. So I literally spent the whole day out at the movies on Christmas Day. Some of my family left the country to Cuba or whatever it was, and then the others were just out. So I said, you know what? I'm just going to do me. And it was like the first year that I felt like, you know what? I didn't have to do what others expected of me. I was always that person who tried to please my family, try to be and do and say the right things, even if I wasn't feeling it. And I think sometimes when you do that, you're not genuine. You're not you. And sometimes you still haven't met the real you. So I would say as soon as you can, really be honest with how you really want to do things, and you have the ability to do those things, I say try doing some of the things that you personally want to do before maybe this, if you're a person who's not gone through this or going through this. Set boundaries. You can leave gatherings early. You don't have to you don't have to skip it altogether. You can just be there for a time. Remember, you could be that person for someone else, and if you don't show up even though you're here, you're setting some sort of a precedent with other people. So maybe, maybe you do, as I said, maybe you do have to grit and bear for a little bit, maybe for your kids, maybe for your other family members. You know, you can break out if it gets too much. Letting people know in advance can help manage the expectations. They'll be like, okay, well, you're not going to be around for charades in the evening or when we decide to watch The Sound of Music at 7. You know what I mean? Like, just say, you know what, I'm coming. Don't worry, I'm coming, but I may have to leave a little early. So don't count on me for anything late, I suppose. Or maybe I'll come late when everybody's kind of cheered up and happy go lucky. Maybe that's the time that I can just slide in. I don't know. I don't know if you're going to be the life of the party, so you might not want to show up at that time. Third, how do I deal with well-meaning friends or family who don't understand my grief? It's not your job to explain how you're feeling. If you're gonna be a gloomy Gus, if you're gonna be an Eeyore, you have the right. You have a right to wallow in it a little bit. I think maybe a lot of it. I still take it hard. So I say just be you. You communicate your needs. It's okay to tell them what you need, whether it's space or you need somebody to listen to you for a bit. I can honestly tell you, yes, I still haven't got over my mother's passing. I still don't think I grieved. I mean, I was the person who had to set up the funeral, which is something that the first time I ever had to do. I had to find the clothes that she was going to be buried in. I had to buy the casket. Had to figure out how I was going to finance things and a whole bunch of stuff that I didn't. So I took on almost like a party planner kind of a role at the same time. You know, it's not easy. You have friends and family who try to come around if you have friends and if you have family, but sometimes there's nothing that they can do. They many try to say the right things, some don't. Some try to make you feel a way if you don't do certain things at certain times, but it's not your problem, it's theirs. So just be who you are, because when people need their space, when stuff happens in their life, they're going to be who they are and they're going to take the space they need. And you are a person too. I would say if you want, you can prepare responses. People often say things they think are comforting, but can unintentionally be hurtful. I don't know. I guess you can prepare a few responses just to be polite, to be comfortable, for everybody to be comfortable, but don't be scared to be yourself, especially if you're a person who's been hiding for many years. Be yourself. And I guess obviously with my parents gone, I've felt more free, because before I more had to, out of respect, not say or do certain things. But now it's like all bets are off. Although I do try to be as respectful as I possibly can. Try not to hold grudges with anybody. Just try to be you. And if being you isn't good enough, then open the scriptures. There's lots of different grief that you can check out in the scriptures to know how to handle grief. You can look at Job. You could look at Mary after Jesus. There's different things in the Bible that can help you with it for sure. Next one. Is it normal to feel guilty about celebrating or experiencing joy? Who am I to say? Really, you know what I mean? I think it's okay to feel guilty, but don't let it sit on you. It shouldn't sit on you and render you useless or unfunctionable because of guilt. I give all my guilt and all my shame. I'm honest about things that I might have done, but I don't let it sit on me. can honor your family, enjoy. Find ways to include their memories if you want, whether through a special toast, maybe sing a song that they loved, maybe share stories, which that's my thing. I love to share stories of my a timely story about any one of my family members who have passed. And it's usually something positive. It's usually something funny. There's usually nothing like miserable or this person was horrible and blah blah blah. I mean that's my experience, right? I can't say that for everyone else. Maybe you need to get some stuff off your chest instead. I know people try not to say negative things, about people who have passed, and I think that's a good thing in most cases, but I can't really say because we've all had different experiences. Maybe your life was full of horrible times and you'd be hard pressed to find anything positive, and maybe you need to tell a story to maybe help somebody else out, and it's not so positive in your light, but it is an experience and is an understanding that you have now. So I think share it, you know, if it makes sense. 5. How do I include the memory of my loved one during this traditional time? I mean, you could create a new tradition. You could light a candle if you want, if that does it for you. Maybe make a favorite dish and set it out. Maybe it's something that someone used to make and now you're the person who makes it. Maybe you've taken on mom's or dad's or sister or brother's recipe or something, grandma's. Set aside to take moments to talk about them. I think that's the usually one of the things that can help out most people is to take a time to remember. I can give you one off the bat, and it's a Christmas memory where my mother used to make this rum cake, this traditional, I guess, Jamaican or West Indian rum cake, whatever it is. And lots of fruits in it. Maybe it's a fruit cake, whatever it is. But all in all, it's different from the one that you'd buy at the store. And every year she'd make it, and she'd make a cake for the house. And then she'd make maybe 5, 6, 7, 8 cakes. And these were expensive cakes. They're thick, heavy black cake. I guess, yeah, it's called black cake. And when my brother was around, he would figure out ways to dig into the cakes that somehow didn't find a home fast enough. So my mom used to get pretty creative in her places and ways of hiding it. And I can honestly tell you, almost every single time, if my brother was around, he found out where the spurious, the super superfluous, I can't even say the word, the extra cakes were, and he'd dig into it. And she did it. She'd find out. Oh man, he got in there again, and I don't know. She communicated like she was upset, but it was almost like they were decoy cakes. So then when he got into them, she wasn't really that angry. I think she was almost happy that she made something that my brother really loved. So it didn't really turn out to that big. I was like, oh, you're going to get it. Like, I wouldn't even dare. I was when these cakes were made and I knew the hard work. Sometimes she'd ask me to pour in some fruit or whatever it is, or rum in while she mixed. And I know the hard work that she went through. So like, I personally wouldn't even dare going in and digging into the the other cakes. But he definitely didn't know. I don't think he cared. And I think he just thought whatever my mom has is for me and whatever it is. And that was just, his experience. I'm sure when he passed, I'm sure she probably looked on it as a fond memory for herself. And now that they're both gone from me, it makes me chuckle, makes me laugh. I remember it like it was yesterday. 6. How do I handle traditions that feel too painful without them? Well, as I said, you can modify, you can skip traditions. It's okay to change or skip certain traditions if they're too painful. You can always revisit them in the future, as they say. I guess you can't really say there's always next year, but chances are There might be next year, and if you're around, you can always add back things. You can add things back in. You know, you can pick new people in your family to maybe take on certain responsibilities for certain traditions. You can start something new, try something completely different. Maybe you'll get a white Christmas tree this year. One of those old school white Christmas trees from the 80s. Maybe you always get a real tree and you cut it down with someone, and maybe you got to cut it yourself this year. Or maybe you'll finally get an artificial tree that's, they're pretty lifelike nowadays. Spray a little, little pine on it or something. Try something completely different. Ease into something, or pull back some old one that you used to do that you stopped doing. Maybe someone got sick and you stopped doing a certain thing. You can always bring in some new things. Again, save a little for those who are still here with you, What are some coping mechanisms for dealing with grief during the holidays? Well, as they say, practice self-care, do things that nourish you, whether it's going for walks, listening to music, as I do, simply, take a break from social obligations. Maybe it's certain movies you want to watch, There's many different things you could do. Should I talk to my loved ones during holiday gatherings? Or should I talk about, I should say, about it's your choice. I don't know. Keep the secrets a secret if that's your kind of thing. Maybe you want to bring out some secrets. Maybe there's certain things that a person said, you know what? Tell this to these people when I'm gone, and bam, you hit them with. No, I honestly don't know. Keep their memory alive. Fun, happy stories. Maybe like the one that I told. Maybe something short, something long. It's okay if you don't want to talk about them. You can gauge it for yourself in your comfort level. And if you start talking and you realize you can't handle it, just tell people, you know what, maybe I'll try and tell you another time I can't handle it right now. And just let other people know. Sometimes letting people know where you're at in advance breaks the ice, so then you don't feel like you have to say or have to do anything. 9. How can I help children cope with loss during the holidays? For me, I would say just be honest. I know people try to sugarcoat things. People try to make past family members seem like they were superheroes. Kids understand more than we give them credit for a lot of the time. Use age-appropriate language to explain what's happened in the situation and maybe how you're feeling. Maybe you are really down in the dumps. But I would say include the memories. Let them reminisce. Maybe they can do an ornament or something like that in honor of them, or whatever it is, like whatever they're comfortable with or what they want. Like me, I'm not a decorations dude. So we'll be lucky if there's any decorations around here. Whereas, my sister and my mom were all about decorations and putting up the Christmas tree, probably be by the 1st of December or whatever it is. And then leaving it up until I take it down. I had some fun fires in the fireplace, burning old old Christmas trees as I cut them up and seeing how fast they'd blaze up. Trust me, do not do that. I'm going to tell you right now, do not try to burn any part of a Christmas tree in a fireplace. Very, very, very bad idea. You could burn the whole house down. So don't do that. That's the one thing I will tell you. Don't do that. Number 10. What if I feel overwhelmed and alone? Well, I'm there with you. Sometimes you can try to reach out. I know that's generally the hardest part for most people is reaching out, because a lot of time you want to reach out to someone, but you don't really necessarily want them to do anything, and you don't necessarily want to be around them. And I notice a lot of people don't understand that. They don't understand why you don't want to come to their house, why you don't want to come to their neck of the woods, why you don't do this or why you don't do that. Why do you seem so unfriendly? And a few different things. And trust me, I have family that just don't get it. They don't understand it. I have family who probably look at me as being a weirdo for a long time. And you know what? For a while, I felt a way about it because I would say I was probably one of the more friendlier, supposedly quote unquote normal people in my family. But and maybe I just thought that we probably all think we're the more normal ones. But eventually I just embraced it. I had a lot of trauma, a lot of drama in my life, trauma and drama. And I once I started to just embrace it and just let people know, and probably I wallowed and lived in it a little bit too much for people's liking, but it is what it is, you know? So as I said, you can reach out to friends, reach out to family, support groups if you have one, a church if you, even better, in many cases. um, there's also grief counseling. For me personally, I wouldn't go to anybody but a Christian counselor. And when I say Christian counselor, I mean a real Christian counselor, because there's people who, I was raised Christian and therefore I know a little bit about the scripture. I went to a Bible school and blah, 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 but then they're not really Christians. They just have some of the Bible principles. It's like me. I like listening to Jordan Peterson, or at least I used to. I haven't listened to him for a long time, but I know that he's on this we who wrestle with God. I think it's his new book that just came out this year. But I wouldn't read it. You know what I mean? It's like me listening to somebody who just called himself a Christian, like maybe like a Kanye West or whoever I can't remember that other guy is. There's these people who all of a sudden they become Christians, and all of a sudden they're teaching everybody about how to be a Christian. It takes a while. You don't just sleep, wake up, and all of a sudden you're a Christian. And now you're also, not only are you a Christian, but you are also a preacher, a teacher, a counselor in Christian things. It takes a while to be able to be that person, not to mention you take on such a huge thing when you decide to be that person for people. So be very, very careful with people who are calling themselves Christian counselors or gurus or whatever it is. As I said before, many things in psychology field I would listen to, say, a Jordan Peterson, but if it's a Christian thing, no, I probably know more than he does. Although he's a lot smarter and a lot more learned in a lot of different areas. But I think I got him beat on that one. And if I don't, whatever it is, I'm just trying to give you an example of someone that I think is very intelligent, someone who I respect, and yet I still wouldn't take anything from them when it comes to ways to be as far as a Christian is concerned. All right, so closing thoughts. Holidays without the people who meant the most to you can feel empty. Like there's something missing that can never be replaced. And honestly, it's true. There is something missing. But even in that emptiness, there can be space for new kinds of things, new kinds of love, remembrance, maybe even moments of peace. If you're facing your first holiday without your parent, your sibling, know that you're not alone in this. There's many of us out here, and that's why I did this podcast. I know that I kind of prepared the answers a little bit, so maybe it doesn't have that certain pop. Who knows? I may have to do another one. It's still kind of early, but this is just kind of a preparatory kind of podcast, I guess, when it comes to that. So I would say for you, just take one day at a time, honor your loved ones in a way that feels right to you. Remember them, in the way that you think you should, I would say, respect to other people. And you know what? You're probably right about what you need this season. Give yourself permission to feel. But at the same time, if you're grieving, try not to wallow in it too much and realize that there always is going to be a tomorrow. We might not all get to that tomorrow, but there is a tomorrow. Anyhow, this is MCM and I'm signing off. Take care. You're probably right. See you next time. Peace out. Hey, come check out You're Probably Right podcast. Society is getting more unpredictable every day, but at the same time, predictable in its unpredictability. Say that 4 times real fast. Come with me as I attempt to find clarity in all the fog while staying way outside the box and kicking the box way down the road with my size 12 ducks. I use the Bible, experience, education, fortune, misfortune, life's lessons, life's mistakes to sort through all the mess. I talk about news, God, God, self-help, sports, sickness, health, music, parenting, love, humbleness, hurt, pain, joy, and all the things that might make you say, I never thought of it that way. Hopefully, anyway. Also, I take a stab at answering tough and not so tough questions, and all the while understand that, listen, sometimes you end up in the hot seat and there's no thermostat. Well, that's how it is here. And because there's no topic, very few topics off the table, Torontonians will understand that Doug Ford reference there. Hopefully the podcast will be helpful and uplifting. And hey, maybe you'll find your own private Idaho here somewhere. Hope to see you soon.